So I'd only walked about 50 metres from the small hill where we'd been watching that incredible sunset. I could hear this voice, Mike, Mike. There's no mistaking it, of course, it was Kazim. And you couldn't miss him, he was so tall and imposing, and he always wore this blue bobble hat whatever time of day it was, whatever the weather was like. So we walked together towards the cross, and it's not very far at all. We got there around before 7 o'clock. There was a small group of pilgrims around it, so we waited, and then no time at all they were gone. And the cross was alone, and we were just looking at it, staring at it for what seemed quite a long time. I wasn't sure what to do, and Kazim grabbed hold of me and moved me towards the cross, helped me very sort of gently. Then he moved towards the cross himself. He put his own stone down, and he held his arms out, and he started speaking in Russian, which I obviously couldn't understand. I found out later he was saying a prayer for his grandmother and a prayer for one of his best friends that died of a heroin overdose in Moscow a few years before. And then he turned round to me. Wasn't sure what to say or what to do. Wasn't coping very well. And he just got hold of my hand and moved me towards the cross, and I was right in front of it. I could have reached out and touched it. And I said a prayer, I put my stone down. I just didn't really know what to do. I stared at these two pictures I told you about before. My mother and father and my best friend Steve Neep, who died in 2016. And Kazim just took hold of them. He had this sort of sense for pilgrims. He could tune into when they needed help and when to do the right thing. He was a very sort of compassionate person. So he took the pictures and the pins I'd brought with me to pin them on the cross, and he reached up with those great big long arms of his, so much higher than anybody else's. The guy was is very tall, and then he pinned them on, and then he turned around, looked very pleased with himself, stared at me and just gave this great big smile. And we looked at each other, and then we stepped back, turned round and walked away, and that was it. Now, I'd expected to feel depressed, but I didn't. I felt uplifted. It was so weird, and I couldn't get out of my head how special Steve was, how important it was to me, the things he did for me. So let me tell you some things about him. So Steve was a kind man without arrogance. Everyone loved him. When he died, there were 600 people at his funeral and at least 100 outside. The priest said afterwards he'd never seen anything like it before. So Steve could just do anything. He was so popular. He could play football, he could run, he could do anything. But his great gift was dancing. He loved soul music. He introduced me to soul music. And he used to love Edwin Starr, and Contours, Mitch Ryder. And he met his wife when she was 14. You'd often see them at the dance halls in the youth clubs around Barrow, our hometown, when we were 16, 17, and he'd be there with Diane dancing in the middle, and there'd be a circle of people around him, and you could see all the young teenagers looking at him, wanting to be like him, wanting to be as cool as him, but of course none of us could. But he was untouched by it all. He was not arrogant about anything. He didn't really know how great he was. That was kind of his temperament. So I started walking with all this I just felt so happy, so joyful. And Kazim was about 50 metres behind me. And after a few minutes, there was a tap on my shoulder. "Are you okay, Mike?" he said. I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." And that was it. We just clicked back into the normal topics of conversation, probably snoring or banging doors or blisters. And that was the end of my experience of the Cruz de Ferro. And it's another remarkable thing that's happened to me on this amazing Camino, and I just know my life will never be the same again.